All right, shalom, brothers and sisters, once again. Solid Foundation Israelite Academy, bringing you another short video on today. And the topic of discussion is, why did the Most High tell Moses to remove his shoes? Why did the Most High tell Moses to remove his shoes? And this is dealing with the 3rd chapter in the book of Exodus. I will cover this quick as possible. All right. So please share the video, guys, with family and friends. And we thank you once again for those of you that soon to tune in to this video. I'm going to get straight into it for the sake of time, because I have lots of more spiritual work to do besides what I'm doing now. And so this is in Exodus, the 3rd chapter. So guys, what you're going to need for this lesson, like I say always, you will need a Holy Bible for this lesson. If you want to take notes, you can take notes. All right, so here it is. So I'm going to begin with Exodus chapter 3, beginning with the first verse. It says, "Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb." Exodus 3 and verse 2. "And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire." So you had an angel that approached Moses in the form of a flame, all right, out of the midst of a bush. "And he looked, and behold, the bush burnt with fire, and the bush was not consumed." Pretty much, this is how Ezra was approached as well. When you go into the Apocrypha and you begin with the 14th chapter in the book of Ezra, Ezra was approached the same way that Moses was approached by an angel that appeared to him in the form of a flame. All right, guys. Let me give you a precept. Deuteronomy 4. Verse 24 says that God is a consuming fire. All right, so that's Deuteronomy 4, verse 24. It said that God is a consuming fire. And also Hebrews 12 and 29. Hebrews 12 and 29. It also tells you that for our God is a consuming fire. So Hebrews 12 and 29 tells you that our God is a consuming fire. And also Deuteronomy 4 and 24 tells you our God is a consuming fire. All right. For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. So when we go back to Exodus 3 and verse 2, we can see the cause of that verse, what I have broken down thus far. So we moving on. Exodus 3 and verse 3. "And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why this bush is not burnt." Because when the Lord appeared to Moses in the form of a flame in the midst of a bush, Moses, he was very astonished because he was trying to figure out why in the hell this bush is not consuming. Why? Because if anything on fire, if anything is set aflames and it's on fire, then we already know fire. What fire does is fire breaks down objects. Fire consumes. It deteriorates objects. Moses was trying to figure out why in the hell this bush is not being consumed. So he went over to the bush, right? This is Exodus 3 and verse 3. "And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt." Exodus 3 verse 4. "And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am." You see, Exodus 3 verse 5. "And he said, Draw not near here." So Exodus 3 verse 5, he says, "Draw not near here. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground." So why did the Most High tell Moses to remove his shoes from off his feet, because this is the topic of discussion. Why did the Most High tell Moses to do that? He tells Moses, he said, look, draw not near here. Put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground. All right, guys. Now, I'm about to explain why did the Most High tell Moses to take off his shoes. First and foremost, let's go into Acts 7:22 in the New Testament. So when we go into Acts chapter 7, verse 22, and that's in the New Testament, it tells you, guys, it says Acts 7:22 in the New Testament, and Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and in deeds. So Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and in deeds. Because, guys, keep in mind, Moses passed for being Pharaoh's grandson. Now, we know that Moses was not an Egyptian. Moses was a Levite from the tribe of Levi. But, like I said, the Hebrews, the Shemites and the Hamites, they are very similar in complexion. And Moses passed for being the grandson of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Many years later, Pharaoh found out that Moses was not a Hamite, and Moses fled. But anyways, keep in mind that Moses was learning all the wisdom of the Egyptians. So what does this mean? This means that when the Most High tells Moses to take off his shoes in Exodus 3 and verse 5, Moses was basically being introduced to new vibration, new energy, new frequency. All right, guys? Because we know that everything operates in three major things. And those three major things is basically frequency, energy, and vibration. So everything operates in frequency, energy, and vibration. So Moses had this Hamitic frequency, energy, and vibration on him, and the Most High did not want Moses to, convey that, because basically Moses had that negative Hamitic energy, frequency, and vibration on him. And the Most High, the Most High is the God of Israel. The Most High is the governor of the Hebrew Israelites. Okay, not the governor of the Hamites, not the governor of the Northeast Africans. So this is why he tell Moses to remove his shoes from off his feet. Another thing I want to show you guys that's in reference to what I'm telling you is entities. Because Moses had picked up many entities as he progressed and learned all the wisdom of the Egyptians. He picked up this Hamitic vibration that the Most High wasn't dealing with. All right. And so Moses, you can say, he picked up negative entities from Egypt. All right. And guys, let me show you this. So here's an article, and it says how to avoid getting entities. All right. Now, I'm not going to read all this stuff, but I'm going to skip down to the main thing. Okay. It says another less well-known method to keep your house clear is to take off your shoes right at the door. That's what the Most High tells Moses in Exodus 3, verse 5. He says, put off thy shoes from thy feet. So basically, guys, to avoid getting these entities, take your shoes off right at the door, for the simple reason that many entities attach themselves to the feet. And as you don't usually walk barefoot outside, that means to your shoes. So entities can attach themselves to your shoes. Now it makes perfect sense why in the East people frequently take their shoes off and wash their feet when entering temples and sacred places, as well as in their homes. We Westerners have a lot to learn from the East when it comes to psychic hygiene and psychic self-defense. See, so this article is how to avoid getting entities. All right. So I'm just assuming that Moses had some type of negative frequency, energy, and vibration on him. You know, he probably had just some negative frequency, energy, and vibration that the Most High didn't want him to introduce to this new sacred order that the Most High was going to bring Moses. And so in Exodus 3 and 5, he said, draw not near hither, put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon thou standing is holy ground. Because the Most High was about to, introduce Moses to a whole new frequency, energy, and vibrational level in terms of the Hebraic realm. Okay, so Moses couldn't take this hermetic frequency, energy, and vibration over. You see, and that is how to avoid getting entities, because the Most High didn't want to deal with that. So he tells Moses such in Exodus 3 and 5, put off your shoes from your feet. So guys, that's all I had to say concerning this live lesson. Facebook, share this video with family and friends. Guys, I hope you was edified. Until next time, I will see you in the next edition. Giving all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jesus Christ. Until next lesson, Shalom.